Okay, so I'll be talking about around how much more you will need to pay for a ITX build, which is the smaller form factor. So there's like three. There's the most common form factor. It's called ATX, MATX, and ITX. ATX is the largest, MATX is the middle one, and ITX is the smallest one. And then the one that I'm currently using is a ATX one because ATX one, right, usually is larger in size, so you have less compatibility issues, and then you can fit like more beefy, more stronger, bigger GPU inside. You don't have to worry about your CPU cooler don't fit, your GPU don't fit, stuff like that. It's like less hassle, and then the only downside of it is just that it takes up some space, but like it's okay for my table, so like I'm using an ATX. And then if you're using an ITX, right, yeah, it takes less space on your table, but firstly, when you're going high end on it, right, you're not gonna get very good performance because you won't have very good airflow and stuff. So your performance will be slightly limited unless you are willing to pay a huge amount of money, like I'm saying huge amount, to optimize the airflow, or else your performance will be bad. But you're probably looking at lower form, right? But even at lower form, right, even at lower end, I mean, right, even at lower end, right, you still need to pay more money because the components for ITX are just more expensive. Like the motherboard that fits your PC case are gonna be more expensive, and like ITX case itself might already be more expensive. And like, 这里 like there add a bit, there a bit, yeah, it's just gonna be more expensive. So you should be able to see here, right? So this is the aftershock. They are ready to ship one. So when we are talking about entry level, right? Usually they are ready to ship one will be the most value for money one, because it's just ready to ship means they already built it already, and then like it's probably inside their storage or something, and then they just build it in bulk. They buy all the components in bulk. They build it in bulk, so like they can just make it cheap. Like all the components here, if you're going to build it all on your own, you were to buy components from like Lazada, Shopee, you buy from like yourself, right, and you build, right, you definitely don't get the same price one. So unless you're buying like higher end components, uh, higher if unless you're building like a higher end PC, where like the price that you buy yourself and the price that they buy is basically the same, and then you want to have like more customizable needs, then maybe you want to build it yourself. But like at like the $1,000 or 1,500 range, most likely you just want to buy from them. So now we can actually get started. So this is the cheapest one. It's 779. You can look at it. The CPU is it's basically this one. So it's not really, it's okay. It's not S, but like just okay. It's kind of S. Like you rather you want okay, never mind. I'll just say it here first. So the CPU is not the most ideal one. The GPU, I think you have some knowledge about it, right? 3050 obviously is just not very ideal. This combination of like 8400F from AMD and this 3050 combo, you probably won't get a lot of frame rates when you're trying to play games like AAA title. You probably cannot even hit like 60 FPS and like 1080p. And then maybe you play like, okay, maybe at least games like Valorant you can still play at like, I don't know, 100 200 FPS. And then the RAM, right, is only 16 gig. So for our course, if you're trying to multitask, most of the times you need to multitask, right? You need to look at like you have one Chrome browser on so that you can look at the task. You can go to Brightspace and look at the task. And maybe teacher got give you one video, you have to watch the video and do it. So you'll be like one Chrome task, one Chrome tab, and then one YouTube video. And then after that, you have to like have your Unity open or like your Maya open. Maybe you still want to sidetrack on something else. So like you're multitasking, and then 16 gig currently it might already be not enough already. So let's not even talk about the future. So I myself, right, will go inside and then pay for this $35 to make it 32 gig. So assume this 32 gig of RAM. This one is very straightforward. If you need more, you just go and buy yourself. This one is the last thing to worry about. And then all this is none of your business also. So at the price of 814, you can get like you'll get like a CPU that's like not really ideal for both your gaming needs and your uh productivity needs. Meaning that like you can still play your game, you can still do your work, but like both of them would not just perform. I'll even say like not really perform at like acceptable performance. So this is what the cheapest can offer you, which is quite insane. Like just below 1,000, you can already get like one PC that can do the things you want already. It's already good enough to do the things that you want. It's just that it won't be good. And then the next one will be the one that I personally would choose. So it's just this one, the cheapest Intel one. And the reason why I choose Intel here because you look at all this AMD CPU, right? Mm, all of them, right, will have better single core performance than this one. All of them will have better single core performance than this one, but all of them will have worse multi-core performance than this one. And the difference between single core performance and multi-core performance is complicated. I can go more deep, but like let's just not do it here. So you can just interpret this as if you want better gaming performance when it comes to like games like Valorant, League of Legends, like this online game, you want a stronger single core performance. And then when you want a better performance at productivity software like Maya Unity, you want a better multi-core performance. So if you are trying to do work right, you just choose those like for example this one, right? It's a very good single core performance processor. You can play a lot of like online games at a very good frame rate with this processor. But if you are just talking about doing work, right, this is gonna be better. This gonna be better. And I made my own research. I go at YouTube and see like if I were to get this CPU and I were to get this CPU, right? Actually the frame rates that you get on like Valorant, yeah, I'm just gonna use Valorant as an example. The frame rates that you get on Valorant is actually quite around the same. They both can hit like almost 300 FPS at like 1080p. So since like the actual game performance aren't that big, and then this one have like a obvious lead in productivity performance, I'll choose this one. And then uh it's 5060. Um the 50 one, like the 5050 and like the 3050, right? They're just straight up garbage, man. Straight up e-waste. 5060 is kind of e-waste, but like less of a e-waste. At least you can play like at least with 5060 you can play most of the triple A title. So this combination of like the 14 gen 400 on like 14400F with 5060, you can play like most of the triple A title at like a playable frame rates. And then you play games like Valorant and like League of Legends, CS:GO, probably Apex, probably no problem. And then similar to just now what I did, 32 gig of RAM, it will make things everything much easier. So if your budget is at 1,000, right, you can actually be pretty comfortable already. That's if you are not going for ITX, which is the smaller form factor. So so now I'm gonna move on to like how much we need to pay for ITX. So this is me, the one that I sort of came out myself. So I'll go through it with you first. So you can see that the first parts that we need is a CPU, right? So I go and make my research, like just now. I was just comparing prices, basically, and like the 12 gen, 13 gen, 14 gen, honestly, not that much difference. So I was seeing like the 12 gen, 13 gen, or 14 gen, which one is the cheapest. But turns out this is the cheapest that we got, which is basically the one here. So it's the price 250, and then this is not really the cheapest motherboard that can fit in ITX case that I can found, but like uh motherboard, right? There's a lot of like small brand that's pretty suspicious, like Mingxuan, something like that, and then like well, and then usually unless you're like pro and then you know how to deal with like those potential technical errors that might come out. If not, you want to go for MSI, Asus, and Gigabyte, or maybe what was that one called? Okay, now I just take it as you want to choose between these three. So among these three, right, this is the cheapest one that I can find that can use the CPU just now and also can fit in the ITX case. So 330. So 330 plus 250, just CPU and motherboard itself is already over 500 already. This is 580, and then now we got CPU and motherboard already. Let's just look at the graphics card. You need a graphics card, right? And this one is pretty straightforward. You don't have much choice. Uh, I can tell you like even now you are definitely running over $1,000 already. So just choose the cheapest, which is just 3050, which is just straight up E-ways, but you got no choice. And then you need your RAM, right? As I previously mentioned, I myself like to make it 32 gig, but we are kind of broke, so choose the cheapest one. We are broke as fuck. So 3050, the cheapest RAM that we can use, and then all these are SATA SSD or like Gen 3 NVMe, which you probably don't want to use it as your primary system SSD unless you hate your life. So and this one SSTC Oceanic, right? It looks like you have a lot of value for money, but if you will go into make some in-depth research, right, this is garbage. Don't buy this. So this is the most normal one, which is $78. And then you have to cool down your CPU, and then we are broke, so just choose the most basic one, the cheapest one. And then you want an ITX case, right? So basically these two are like the cheapest one, right? And then I went and checked. Both of them don't come with fan, so you have to buy your own fan. So this one is the cheapest, right? 6.9, right? We get a 6.9 one, and then we have to buy a PC fan. It's just the cheapest one. So now, right, we are already like, sacrificing a lot of things. We are kind of like just whatever lah. I'm not gonna get a best shit that will suits my needs. I'm just trying to like make it cheap, and then everything add on, it will be 606 plus just now 580. Total will be 1186. That's basically 1,002 already. So you are paying you are paying 130 more than this one, and then you are getting like much worse stuff than this one. This one it got a better GPU. You get 32 gig of RAM, and then it's already built finished already. It will just send straight to your house, and then there's like a warranty. If something fucked up, you don't have to panic. Somebody will settle it for you. Yeah, and then we can also talk about like if we can also talk about like if you want to let Aftershock custom it for you, because they do can custom PC, but then the moment that you're customing, obviously you're gonna get like less value of money comparing to a ready to ship, because they are ready to ship. I mentioned at the very start like how they can make things cheaper when it's ready to ship. So the compact one, which is all the ITX one, I just choose the cheapest one, which is this one. And this one itself is already at our budget already. So can we really modify anything? We can't really modify anything also. So the CPU choice is This one is not bad. I like this CPU a lot because when you are really a budget, right, and then you don't really care about like doing things like Maya and Unity, you are just trying to play your fucking game, right? This shit is so fucking good, man. It gets so good single core performance. So CPU, I wouldn't say it's a S choice, but it's a good choice, but it's just that it won't suit your needs that well. But then we don't have the cheap Intel to choose. We have to bear with the newest Intel. But the moment that you choose the newest Intel, not only that you are paying 200 more, you need a better motherboard, and your motherboard need a better RAM. And when I say better, it really needs a better RAM. So let's just stick to this. The fan, the motherboard. I don't think I have to go deep there. And then you're only getting 16 gig of RAM. You cannot get 32 gig of RAM. If you get 32 gig of RAM, you need a better motherboard also. So you are stuck with 16 gig of RAM. Because you see, 32 gig of RAM plus the better. This one also cannot use. Must use this one. Boom, 1003 already. So let's just stick to 16 gig of RAM. And then obviously GPU, you're not getting any good shit, bro. Yeah, start with 3050, bro. Uh, this one is SSD that like I added just now. Yeah, the rest of the things are on the same. So basically, oh shit, why is it $2,000? What the hell? Okay, so basically, I think we can all come down to the conclusion that unless your table is really small and you don't want to put the PC under your table on the floor, or else just stick to all this. But I think this one should be MATX. It shouldn't take up too much space also. What's the PC case? Does it say? Does it tell you? Or it doesn't tell you, but it just won't be too big, I guess. Definitely smaller than the one I'm using. Definitely smaller than Ifan one. Also, Ifan no shit is even bigger than mine, man. And then, uh, actually, if you want, I can show you like how much it would take to make one ITX that actually suits your needs. Just like you're not compromising anything, you're not sacrificing anything. But like, I can just tell you, it will be like definitely 1,500 and above already. So yeah, man, just stick to this one, bah. If you are tight on budget.